My parents thought it would be funny if I missed my flight home. Let's see what she can do. Hi, my name is Kala, and my family decided my life was nothing more than entertainment to them. It all started with a lie, one that left me stranded at an airport, alone, waiting for a flight that didn't even exist. At first, I convinced myself it had to be a mistake. Something got mixed up, some error in the booking. But then I saw the messages, laughing, mocking, enjoying it. They didn't forget me. They chose to leave me behind. And the worst part? That wasn't even the end of it. They stole from me, manipulated me, used my name to take out loans I never agreed to. And when I finally cut them off, when I refused to be their safety net anymore, they tried to destroy me. Public humiliation, lies, threats. They did everything they could to make sure I failed without them. And for a while, I believed them. The airport buzzed with life. Announcements echoed through the terminals, footsteps rushed past, laughter filled the air. But I stood completely still. My duffel bag slipped slightly from my shoulder as I reread the flight confirmation again and again, and then once more. Yesterday. The ticket was for yesterday. A heavy, cold feeling settled deep in my stomach. I grabbed my phone, my fingers clumsy as I dialed my father. The call rang. Once, twice, then voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. My chest tightened, my heart pounding hard against my ribs as I scrolled through my messages, searching, hoping for something that would make sense of this. Anything. Then my phone buzzed. Ronan. Damn, sis, looks like you're stuck. Let's see how you survive now. My blood went cold. This wasn't an accident. It was a setup, a joke, a cruel, twisted game designed by the people who were supposed to protect me. I forced myself to move, scanning the crowd like I could somehow find them, like this was all some sick prank, and any second my father would appear, arms crossed, waiting for me to admit defeat. The loudspeaker crackled. Final boarding call for Flight 207 to Denver. Passengers proceed to Gate 14 immediately. People rushed past me, a couple laughing, a child dragging a stuffed rabbit behind her as she held her mother's hand. A lump formed in my throat. My phone buzzed again. Lilith, you'll be fine, Kala. You always figure things out. A tear slipped down my cheek. They weren't coming back. My hands trembled as I checked my wallet. $23.50. An expired student ID, a random receipt. That was it. I opened my suitcase. A few clothes. Nothing else. No charger. No essentials. Panic clawed its way up my chest. I was completely alone. I spent that night in a corner of the terminal, curled into a plastic chair, watching flights I would never board flicker across the screens. By morning, the airport felt different. Colder. Emptier. Like it had no place for me anymore. At the coffee stand, the cashier gave me a look when I counted out crumpled bills for the cheapest thing they had. Eventually, I walked and walked until the automatic doors slid open and the Texas heat hit my face. The city stretched out in front of me, loud, fast, uncaring. I had nowhere to go. A year passed. I learned how to survive. I found a job at a diner on the edge of town, the kind of place where the coffee tasted burnt and the jukebox barely worked. I washed dishes, cleared tables, worked until my hands ached, then did it all again the next day. I rented a tiny room above a laundromat. The walls were thin, the air thick with detergent and dampness. I kept my head down. Marlo, the owner, never asked questions. She just watched, sharp and quiet, like she could see the cracks in me but chose not to dig into them. And maybe, for the first time in my life, I was free. No one controlled me. No one made my choices for me. But freedom came at a cost. I had no safety net. No one to call when things went wrong. And eventually, they did. It was a slow night. I was wiping down a table when the door opened and a voice I hadn't heard in over a year slipped into the room. Well, so this is where you ended up. I froze. Cormac Whitmore stood there. Same tailored suit, same cold eyes scanning everything with quiet judgment. The diner went silent. The cook stopped mid-motion. A couple in the corner turned to watch. Cormac stepped closer. This is what happens when you think you can survive without family, Kala. You were supposed to be better than this. I swallowed hard, gripping the rag in my hand. What do you want? He scoffed loudly. I told you, you'd never be more than this. Just a waitress scraping by. Looks like I was right. Heat rose to my face. He wanted this, wanted me to feel small. But I wasn't that girl anymore. You done? Marlowe's voice cut through the tension. She stood behind the counter, arms crossed. Or do I need to have you escorted out? Cormac laughed under her breath. Not worth my time. He turned and walked out without another word. I should have felt relief. Instead, anger burned under my skin. No more running. No more pretending. I would prove them wrong. But that meant facing the one thing I had avoided for years. My past. 5 years passed since they left me at that airport. 5 years of building something from nothing. 5 years of convincing myself I was untouchable. I wasn't. I had my own small apartment now, just one room above the laundromat. Not much, but it was mine. I worked long hours, saved every dollar, ignored the past. Until the past came back. My phone rang early one morning. Miss Whitmore, we need to discuss a loan under your name. I frowned. I don't have a loan. A pause. Then, there is a $5,000 loan opened last year under your identity. Everything inside me went still. Send me the paperwork. Minutes later, the email came through. My hands shook as I opened it. There it was. My name. A forged signature. And a cosigner. Ronan Whitmore. My grip tightened around the phone. My own brother had stolen my identity, taken out a loan in my name, and let it sit there like it meant nothing. My phone buzzed. Ronan, guess you found out. Not a big deal. Just fix it. Anger spread through me, slow and burning. 5 years. I had cut them off for 5 years, and they still found a way to use me. I didn't call him. I called her. The phone rang once before she answered. Oh, Calla, sweetheart. It's been so long. That voice, soft, sweet, like nothing had ever happened. Did you know? A pause. Know what, darling? About the loan. Silence. Heavy. Then, quietly, yes. I closed my eyes. She rushed to explain. Ronan needed help. He was in trouble. I let out a bitter laugh. So you let him steal from me? She sighed. We thought you'd be okay. You've always been strong, independent. I cut her off. So he needed someone to clean up his mess, and you chose me. Her voice cracked. I didn't know what else to do. You could have chosen me, just once. Silence. I hung up. This betrayal cut deeper than the airport ever did, because now I understood. They never let me go. I sat in my dim apartment, the paper crumpled in my hand. I had a choice. Fix it, pay it, take the hit like always, or fight back. Something cold and certain settled inside me. They didn't get to use me anymore. I opened my laptop and started typing. First step, cut off every access point. Lock my credit, freeze my accounts, file a fraud report. Next step, find out everything. I wasn't cleaning their mess. I was ending it. But the deeper I dug, the worse it became. Cutting them off should have been the end. I had secured my finances, protected myself. But something felt off. So I kept digging. I checked every transaction. Everything looked normal. Rent, groceries, small savings. Then I opened my credit report. My stomach dropped. Another account. One I never opened. Completely drained. Thousands in cash advances over the past 2 years. My heart raced as I tracked the withdrawals. Most of them traced back to East Austin, an area known for illegal activity. Then I saw the name, Apex Financial Holdings. I searched it. 5 minutes later, I had my answer. A shell company, a front for loan sharks, owned by Dante Morales, a man people didn't negotiate with, a man who made examples out of people. My grip tightened on my phone. Ronan hadn't just stolen from me. He dragged me into something dangerous. I should have walked away, but my name was tied to it, so I went looking for answers. That's how I ended up outside a warehouse in East Austin, just before midnight. The place looked abandoned, but the silence told a different story. I stepped inside. The air was thick. Smoke, sweat, tension.
And then I saw him. Ronan. He looked broken, bruised, exhausted. For a second, I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. Then I saw Dante Morales, sitting calmly at a table, perfectly dressed, like none of this was chaos to him. He looked at me and smirked. So you're the sister, the one with the clean record. I kept my voice steady. I have nothing to do with this. He leaned forward slightly. Your brother says otherwise. I looked at Ronan. He couldn't even meet my eyes. Calla, please, you can fix this. Fix it, like always. Dante slid a document across the table. $50,000. My name forged as cosigner. I felt my jaw tightened. This wasn't just a mistake. This was deliberate. I looked Dante in the eye. I didn't sign this, and I'm not paying anything. Silence filled the room. Then he smiled, slow, cold. That's unfortunate. He nodded to his men. They grabbed Ronan and shoved him forward. He stumbled, barely catching himself. Time is running out. Ronan's voice shook. Calla, please, if I don't pay. I pulled my arm away when he grabbed me. You did this to yourself. His face twisted. I didn't have a choice. I looked at him, steady. There's always a choice.
I snapped. You just made the wrong one. Dante let out a soft chuckle like he was watching an interesting show. Family is funny like that, he mused, always leaving behind collateral damage. I refused to let him rattle me. I turned on my heel and walked away, my heart hammering. I knew this wasn't over. Dante wouldn't forget my face. And Ronan wasn't done using me. I had just declared war against my own brother and my family. They were about to escalate this fight. I had done everything right. I cut off all contact, blocked Ronan's number, notified my bank of every fraud risk imaginable. I even filed a report, though I knew damn well that people like Dante Morales didn't care about what was legal. I tried to move on, but my family didn't believe in moving on. They only believed in getting what they wanted. So when my phone rang one evening with an unknown number, I almost ignored it. Almost. I shouldn't have picked up. Calla, a voice I hadn't heard in years. Lilith. She sounded different, weaker, shaky. Please, sweetheart, just meet us for dinner. We need to talk. Every fiber of my being screamed no, but there was something in her voice, real desperation, and for a split second, I felt the pull. One last time. They picked the place on purpose, some fancy restaurant downtown, a place where people like us didn't belong, the kind of place where everything was white tablecloths and fake politeness, where the rich ate steak while drowning in debt. And sure enough, they were already seated when I walked in. Cormac, composed, cold, looking at me like a business opportunity. Lilith, wide-eyed, clutching tissues like an actress mid-performance. And Ronan, silent, ashamed or pretending to be. I didn't sit down. Whatever you're about to ask, the answer is no. Cormac barely reacted, just folded his hands like he was negotiating a deal. We're not here to fight, Calla. We need your help. I crossed my arms. That's new. Lilith reached for me, her voice soft, pleading. Ronan made mistakes. We all did. But we're family. And family helps each other. The words were so hollow, I almost laughed. Cormac reached into his jacket and slid a document across the table. I didn't pick it up. You should read it, he said smoothly. So I did, and my blood went ice cold. A notarized contract. A legal agreement making me finally responsible for Ronan's debt. $50,000 owed to Dante Morales. I inhaled sharply. Cormac's voice was steady. Sign this, and we'll take care of the rest. Dante will leave you alone. Lilith grabbed my hand. Her fingers were trembling. Please, baby. It's just money. I stared at her, then at Ronan. He hadn't said a word. Finally, he spoke. Quiet. Hesitant. I'll pay you back. I swear. And that's when I did laugh. A deep, bitter sound that made Cormac's jaw tighten. I leaned forward, looking each of them dead in the eye. You think I'm that stupid? Cormac's smile thinned. It's the right thing to do, Calla. I shook my head, disgust curling in my chest. No, the right thing would have been not stealing from me. The right thing would have been not abandoning me in an airport
and then coming back years later expecting me to fix your mess. Lilith flinched. Don't say that. I stood up. Enjoy your dinner. Cormac's voice turned sharp, low enough that only I could hear. If you walk away, don't expect us to be there when you need us. I froze for half a second. Then I turned back, and I smiled. You were never there to begin with. I walked out. They had just made their last mistake with me. And he wasn't done playing dirty yet. It had been 2 days since the dinner, and I had expected the retaliation to come immediately. But the silence was worse. My family didn't do silence. It meant something was brewing. I tried to focus on work, but the air at the diner felt different. The usual chatter among customers had shifted. Conversations dropped when I passed by. A few people shot me quick glances, then looked away just as fast. Marlo caught my wrist as I cleared a table, her grip firm. You need to see this, Kala. She handed me her phone, and I barely had to glance at the screen before my stomach turned to stone. A post on a local Austin community page. Some people just abandon their family when things get tough. Kala Whitmore. What a heartless, selfish disgrace. I gritted my teeth as I scrolled. Hundreds of shares. Hundreds of comments. People I didn't know dragging my name through the mud. Some called me ungrateful. Some said I should be ashamed. Some even suggested that someone like me didn't deserve to work in a place like this. I didn't have to check the account that posted it. I already knew. It was Ronan. He hadn't just come after me. He was trying to ruin me. My grip tightened around the phone as I scrolled, scanning the endless flood of strangers judging me, over a story they knew nothing about. This wasn't just a warning. This was a public execution. I stormed out of the diner, barely hearing Marlo calling my name. My hands shook, but not from fear, from rage. I dialed his number. He picked up immediately, smug, waiting. You think this is funny? I snapped. Ronan sighed dramatically. I don't know what you're talking about, sis. Take it down now. Silence. Then laughter. Or what? That voice. The same one I'd heard my entire life. The one that lied, manipulated, stole, and still thought he could get away with it. I clenched my jaw so hard it hurt. You think walking away makes you safe? Ronan said smoothly. It doesn't. People remember things, and so do I. It wasn't just a taunt. It was a threat. I forced my voice to stay calm, controlled. Try me, Ronan. I dare you. He chuckled. We'll see about that. And then the line went dead. I didn't panic. I planned. First, I called a lawyer. I need to talk about a defamation case. Then I locked down everything, every social media account, every email. Scrubbed any public trace of my past, my job, my life. If he wanted to destroy me, I'd make damn sure there was nothing left to target. I warned Marlo. This might not be over, I told her. She just nodded, arms crossed. You let me know if I need to throw someone out. And then I made a decision. This wasn't just about family anymore. This was war. If Ronan wanted to play dirty, I'd make sure he regretted it. And then, just as I expected, they escalated things again. The smear post had doubled in reach overnight. The comments were relentless. Strangers who didn't know a damn thing about me were tearing me apart online, calling me selfish, ungrateful, a disgrace. And at the diner, the shift in energy was undeniable. People whispered when I passed by. Customers who used to chat now avoided eye contact. Even Marlo seemed to be watching me differently, like she was waiting to see if I'd break. I wouldn't, but I should have known this wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. The door swung open with too much force. I didn't have to look up. I already knew. Cormac, Ronan, Lilith. They walked in together like a perfectly staged scene. Cormac adjusted his expensive suit, eyes scanning the place with the disgust of a man who thought he was better than everyone here. Lilith clutched her purse like the air itself might dirty her. And Ronan, he leaned against the counter with that same smug smirk he had been wearing since we were kids, like he was always one step ahead, always in control. The diner went silent. I felt every set of eyes shift to me. My heartbeat pounded in my ears. They came here for one reason, to humiliate me. Cormac spoke first, his voice loud on purpose. Kala, we need to talk. I crossed my arms. We have nothing to talk about. Lilith stepped forward, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. Please, Kala, we just want to understand why you're doing this to us. My stomach twisted. That tone, that same fake pleading voice she had always used to make me doubt myself. People started whispering. I could feel them forming their own opinions, deciding whether I was the villain or the victim. Ronan shook his head, laughing under his breath. You really have no shame, do you? His voice dripped with disappointment, like he was the one who had been wronged. After everything we did for you. I clenched my fists so hard my nails dug into my palms. Cormac tilted his head, assessing me. You think you're better than us now. His voice was smooth, patient. This little diner job, this life you're trying to build, it's pathetic, Kala. Something snapped inside me. I took a step forward. My voice was sharp, cutting. You don't get to come in here and act like you're the victims. The diner was dead silent. I took another step. You abandoned me. Another. You stole from me. My voice rose, cutting through the room. And now, when I finally cut you off, you come crawling back. Why? Because you need something? Cormac's expression darkened. Watch your tone, Kala. I laughed, cold, humorless. Or what? You'll leave me stranded again? Ronan scoffed, shaking his head. You really think you can just walk away from us? I met his eyes. I already did. Lilith started crying. Your family. My voice was ice cold. No, you were just the people who raised me. Marlowe stepped in then, her voice calm but firm. You hurt her. Get the hell out. Cormac held my gaze for a long moment, and then just like that, he turned and walked out. Lilith followed, still clutching her purse like she had just survived something horrific. Ronan was the last to leave, but before he stepped through the door, he turned back, locking eyes with me one last time. He wasn't done, but neither was I. The diner stayed silent for a long moment. Then Marlowe exhaled. You okay? I let out a slow breath. No, but I will be. I looked around, meeting the gazes of my coworkers, the customers, still watching me. Some were sympathetic, some were still judging me. But none of it mattered anymore, because I knew the truth. And now, so did everyone else. They wanted to humiliate me.
Instead, they showed the world exactly who they really were, and that's when they decided to destroy me for real. I thought the public showdown at the diner had been the climax, the moment they realized I was done, the moment they'd slink back into the shadows, licking their wounds. I was wrong. They came harder. The smear campaign got worse. Ronan doubled down online, spreading lies so outrageous they should have been laughable, but people believed them anyway. Cormac called my workplace. He told Marlowe that I was troubled, a disgrace, that I was stealing from family and a danger to customers. Lilith left voicemails, sobbing, begging, You don't understand what you're doing, Kayla. This is killing us. It's breaking your father's heart. Their desperation reeked of manipulation. But the final straw? Cormac showed up at my apartment. The knock was sharp, demanding. I ignored it. Then his voice came through the door, low and full of venom. You think this is over, Kayla. You're nothing without us. My hands clenched into fists. Every instinct told me to stay silent, but I was done hiding. I opened the door. Cormac stood there, smug, Ronan just behind him, arms crossed like a soldier waiting for orders. Lilith clutched her purse, her eyes already red, like she was preparing for a performance. Cormac smiled like he had already won. I didn't let him speak. I pushed past him, stepping onto the sidewalk, somewhere public, visible. If he wanted a fight, he wasn't going to get it behind closed doors. They followed me. The plaza was busy. People walking, shopping, a few sitting at the cafe across the street. Perfect. Cormac's voice cut through the air, sharp and polished like a weapon he'd wielded his whole life. You owe us, Kayla. We gave you life, and this is how you repay us? People turned to watch. Lilith sniffled, her voice wounded. We just want our daughter back. Ronan sneered, shaking his head. You think you're special? You're still the same scared little girl we left at that airport. I sucked in a slow breath, calm, controlled, deadly. Then I stepped forward. You don't own me anymore. Cormac's eyes flashed. You were a mistake. The air went still for a moment. No one moved. I saw real hate in his face, not just anger, not just frustration, pure, seething resentment. And I realized something. He had never wanted me to survive without them. They needed me to fail, because if I could succeed without them, then their power meant nothing. I reached into my bag. I pulled out a check, and I handed it to him. $73.50, the exact cost of a one-way bus ticket back home. That's what it would have cost me to go back, if I ever wanted to. Cormac's face turned red. He snatched the check, ripped it in half, and let the pieces flutter to the ground. His voice shook with rage.
"You ungrateful little..." Security appeared. 2 uniformed guards. "Is there a problem here?" Cormac stepped back, barely containing his fury. Ronan spat at the ground, then turned and walked away. Lilith gave me one last tearful look before following them. I didn't watch them go. I already knew they had nothing left to take from me. That night, my phone rang. "Marlo, you okay?" I hesitated, then nodded to myself. "Yeah, I think I am." The past doesn't disappear overnight, but for the first time, I was no longer chained to it. They wanted me to be nothing without them, but I was finally free, and now for the first time in my life, I could finally decide who I wanted to be. It had been a week since I severed the last rotting thread that tied me to my family. A week of silence. No manipulative texts, no guilt-tripping calls, just silence. And at first it felt like victory, but victory didn't feel like I thought it would. The quiet was too loud. I had spent my whole life fighting, bracing for the next hit, waiting for the next demand, the next cruel word disguised as love. And now there was nothing. No enemy, no war, just me. And I didn't know what to do with that. The knock on my door was soft, hesitant. I almost didn't answer. But when I opened it, Ezra stood there, a bag of takeout in his hands. No dramatic speeches, no questions, just understanding. I stepped aside to let him in, and we sat on the couch, eating quietly for the first time in days. I wasn't alone. Ezra broke the silence first. "You don't have to pretend you're okay with this," he said, voice low. I exhaled, setting down my chopsticks. "I know, but I also know this was the right thing to do." He nodded, squeezing my hand, and for the first time, I didn't flinch at someone reaching out. The next morning, I walked into Marlo's diner, my second home. Marlo stood behind the counter, her arms crossed, shaking her head. "Took you long enough." I blinked. "What?" She gestured around. "You've been walking around like a damn toast for the past week. I was wondering when you'd finally snap out of it." A small laugh slipped out. "So you're saying..."
I should stop sulking, Marlo smirked. "I'm saying you're wasting time. Life's waiting for you, kid." And just like that, something shifted inside me. My past didn't define me. I had people who actually cared about me. For the first time, I truly believed it. Later that day, Marlo slid a small envelope across the counter. I frowned, opening it. Inside was a set of keys. I looked up, confused. "What's this?" Marlo leaned against the counter, casual as ever. "A fresh start, a space of your own, if you're ready." I looked down at the keys, my heart hammering. It wasn't just a gift, it was a lease, a restaurant lease. Marlo was giving me a shot to open my own place, no strings attached. I gripped the keys tightly, emotions swelling in my chest. I don't know what to say." Marlo shrugged. "Then don't say anything. Just do something with it." And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about a restaurant. This was about finally building something that was mine. For the first time, my future was in my own hands, and I wasn't about to waste it. Months had passed since I held those keys in my hands, uncertain and terrified, since I stepped into the empty space that would become mine. Now I stood in the middle of my restaurant. My restaurant. It wasn't perfect. The floors had scuff marks that wouldn't buff out, the chairs were mismatched because I could only afford secondhand, and the kitchen still had a few quirks that drove me insane. But it was alive. The air buzzed with laughter, with the clinking of plates, the hum of conversations. Every table was full. People came back, not because they owed me anything, not because they needed something from me, but because they wanted to. Marlo sat at the counter, arms crossed, a knowing smirk on her face. "Told you," she said simply. I rolled my eyes. "Told me what? That you'd pull this off, Ezra?" Ezra walked in, sleeves rolled up, tying a borrowed apron around his waist. "And that you'd make it look easy?" I scoffed. "If by easy you mean working 17-hour days on my feet, sure." Ezra just grinned and grabbed a tray of drinks. I wiped my hands on my apron and took a slow, steady breath. This was it. This was what I had fought for. This was mine. Long after the last customer left, I sat alone in the quiet. For the first time in months, I did something I had promised myself I wouldn't. I checked social media. I never unfollowed them. I told myself it was out of indifference, but I knew better. I scrolled. Ronan was still a mess. He had moved on to new scams, still conning people, still making excuses. But people were catching on. The comments under his posts were full of accusations, people calling him out. No one was falling for it anymore. Cormac's world had crumbled. The hardware store had gone under. His posts were bitter, filled with legal battles over unpaid debts. Once people in town respected him, now they ignored him. No one cared. Lilac still played the devoted mother. Her page was full of nostalgic posts,
missing my family today. Hold your loved ones close. There were old pictures, holidays, smiling faces, but never any of me. That was when I finally understood. They had spent so long trying to pull me back, but not because they loved me, because they needed me. And now that I was useless to them, they had erased me completely. For the first time, it didn't hurt. I closed the laptop. I wouldn't check again. The past wasn't my concern anymore. I walked to the front of the restaurant, where Ezra stood with a dish towel slung over his shoulder, watching me. You coming to bed? I looked around one last time. This wasn't just a restaurant. It was proof. Proof that I survived. Proof that I won. I smiled. Yeah, I'm done here. They spent their whole lives trying to break me, but in the end, I built something better than they ever could. Before we wrap up this story, I want to leave you with something to think about. Life doesn't hand you a perfect beginning. Some of us are born into broken families, into situations where love is conditional, where survival means navigating manipulation, betrayal, and pain. But here's what I've learned. You are not bound by the people who try to break you. There will always be those who think they own you. Whether it's family, society, or your past mistakes, they will try to convince you that without them, you are nothing. But that's a lie. The truth is, you get to decide who you become. Success is not revenge, it's freedom. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away and build something better. So I want to ask you, have you ever had to walk away from someone who was holding you back? Was it family, a toxic friend, a job that drained you? What gave you the strength to finally say, I deserve better? Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if this story resonated with you, if it made you feel something, hit that like button and type 1 in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from. I want to connect with you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next story. Because sometimes the best way to move forward is to know you're not alone. See you in the next one.